leading. But then it could be different, let's say, because the one that she's watching maybe somewhere like the ethnic or Shan, predominantly Shan areas, or maybe if we go to another location in the same constituency where there is, let's say, a military base, the result may be different. Even in the same constituency. But then maybe she is going to one of the biggest polling station in that city and watching it. But anyway, that's some sort of like indicator that who is leading in those constituencies.
A good question would be to what draws the ethnic parties to the NLD, besides obviously the long history of, but now the USDP has shown over the past 5 years, and it's been reflected in the polls that we've been given and helped conduct, that a lot of people aren't as upset with the USDP. Of course, everybody's going to vote for the NLD because what they're voting for is change. But in the past 5 years, at least 70% of people are quite happy with the way that things have been going. And that has
in ethnic areas.
In ethnic, not necessarily just ethnic, all around the country, in all major cities, in all states and regions, bar Chin. But like it's more so what the NLD is offering the ethnic parties. So I think what they're looking for is constitutional change, and in the constitution, I think what the ethnic parties and ethnic areas are hoping for, if the NLD come forth as overall successes, is that they will change the constitution to allow for those states and regions to be able to have
more self-determination in their own area. Yeah, I think it's interesting to take a look from that particular perspective about the ethnic votes and the ethnic seats. What is likely from the USDP itself that, okay, hey, I'll offer you this position of chief minister if I become the president, or somebody from our party becomes the president, you will become the chief minister in your own state. That's the most likely offer from the USDP. But from the NLD, I think it may be quite different. They may be offering that the same kind of offer, but then most likely is that what are they offering? Okay, we'll offer you, we can't give you any promises, but then we'll try to be moving with you guys toward the federal union and
changing the constitution.
Change the constitution so that you may have your own chief minister voted by you guys, not from somebody appointed from the top. So the offer may be quite different. So different ethnic party may be going to a different party, but then majority may be going for more self-determination. The ethnic party. I think that may be on the top of the priority list.
And also, in my opinion, whoever wins, either USDP or NLD, I think ethnic parties are going to get more voices, and their voices are to be heard. More voices of their are to be heard, and they will play a quite significant role in shaping the new government, or in
shaping policies.
In shaping the policy, especially the peace. Related policies, peace building policies. And on the other hand, it is the fact that the military is there sitting, and with 25% in the parliament, military is the institution.
Strong,
so yes, ethnic parties will have more says in the politics after the elections and in the next government. But still, it is a question of how these voices and how these forces will work with, or how they will deal with the military. I think how the military will deal with these political forces. I think that is what we will. For me, there is no short answer at all. It is a long way, and it may be very tough.
It's going to be tough, and it's going to be a long way towards it, kind of like these. The federal union, etc., etc. But then there definitely will be a more stronger presence in the parliament. Of course, this legislature, they have a strong presence. They mean that the ethnic parties, the ethnic people may have more presence, a strong presence in the parliament, in lower house and upper house. And then even beyond that point, if the big parties have to simply woo the smaller, hey, join us for this alliance so that I may get this kind of like outright majority in our coalition, and then they may have to offer some position in the cabinet itself. Like so, there definitely will be two trends. One is that more present and more stronger voice in the parliament from the ethnic parties and ethnic people, and then some sort of more presence in the cabinet, meaning that in the executive branch too. So I think maybe the real winner may be the ethnic parties.
Yeah. How about the question of decentralization? Like if we look at the beyond election, will there be more and more decentralization? Can there be more and more decentralization between the state, between the center and the states? Well, what do you think?
With the incorporation of like ethnic parties and ethnic politicians in the central government, I could see bringing forth a lot of decentralization, because when we talk about more voices being heard and there's more voices from around the country expressing this and the general concerns, because this time I think it's more important to realize that a lot of the people who are going to be voted in are quite smaller people. Like, so this is their first turn at politics. They may be community leaders for some time, but they're not as big as some other, not as big or rich as some other candidates are around the country. So they're coming more from a grounded level when they go into the centre. So they're displaying confidence and projecting a good image for their community, their areas, which in the minds of the government and even the military, it could be another way that the military will start to wean off as well over the next 5 years, is showing that there's a lot more confidence and strength about bringing the unity to the country. And I think bringing ethnic politicians into the central government will play an integral part in decentralization of the political system.
Yeah, I think I simply have to agree to that bit. Of course, they already have been some sort of presence in the upper house and the lower house from the ethnic area. They're very strong female members of parliament in lower house and especially in the upper house from Shan State, Kachin State, etc. Very strong women or female members of parliament, and then that will improve, that will grow. And then taking a look back at these kind of like each state and region, because each region and state, they may have a chief minister that's to be appointed by the president in the central government. So that's not really a favorable thing for the ethnic people. They may want to vote for their own chief minister, but that, in that case, that again, the constitution itself has need to be changed. So if there's a more presence in the legislation process in the parliament with more ethnic people representing their own area and their own ideas, I think we may be getting closer to what the ethnic parties and ethnic people are hoping for, like decentralization, more autonomy, etc.
Yeah, and also there are questions of political decentralization, decentralization of political rights and decentralization of economic rights. Wealth, I think decentralization of wealth and resources is also a big issue for the ethnic nationals, especially in the minority areas, because where they have lots of natural resources in their own area, and they definitely don't want the resources already being taken away by the center or the big states, and they want to use the resources for the development of their own ethnic areas. So that is also a big question. Okay, yes, there can be voices heard, more voices will be heard, but how that will be have impact on managing their resources in the states, in managing their day-to-day administrative affairs in the areas. There has been a process going in, whatever the limited knowledge I have, in terms of budgeting. Between the state center and the states, still budgeting is totally almost controlled by the
central government. Yeah.
By the central government.
Yeah, I think that the budgeting for, let's say, for somebody in the Irrawaddy division, the Delta, or in Cayenne State, they got to look up to the Navy door and ask for some budget. So I think, but then again, there is this kind of like limited access to, or let's say budget sources, not natural resources, in almost all these states and regional government or regional parliament, that they may be able to levy on tax on some projects, but not all. But I think then, for example, like taking a closer look at these kind of natural resources, let's forget about the jade and all these gems and big things, but start taking a look at the hydropower plants. Every single state and region may want to have their own hydroelectric plant, but then the law says, I mean, the Constitution and these kind of all these regulations that comes with it said, in states and region, if you're building a hydropower plant, you may go ahead with your own government, the regional government, up to the point of 50 megawatt. That's it. Beyond that point, the central government may comes in. And then again, there's kind of like taking a look again at the ethnic armed conflicts and the armed groups. What they've been asking is the fair share of the natural resources in their own region. Now it looks like the central government took away everything, or almost everything. They were left with whatever is left over there. So that has posed towards more smuggling and black markets. For example, in Kachin State, the jade is a big thing, is a big money resource. And then the central government took away whatever they could, but then the KIA and all the ethnic groups, they have their fair share, trying to do it in their own way and get a fair share of it by using their armed forces, their ethnic armed groups. So I think in that direction about sharing resources, that could be a big issue. And that issue can only be resolved at the central level, in the parliament. Again, if you want a fair share, you need to change some laws, even maybe in some clauses in the Constitution itself. So this bigger presence in the central government, the high-level legislature could mean a lot for the people on the ground.
So I think, yes, that with this election, yes, the ethnic parties will have more seats, but still it's a long way, to go in terms of this right to self-determination of the nationals in the country. But I think so far I think whatever it is, the main two parties, the ruling party USDP and opposition party NLD, they are the two main political parties that are still really coming neck and neck in the elections results.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
The big party may be the guys who are going to make the big differences, but then again, I think the ethnic party, now we've seen, okay, the vice president still is Usama Khan, he's a medical doctor, he's an ethnic Shan, that's quite nice, but do we see any ethnic ministers in the cabinet? Not yet. But that may happen after this election, because the big party have to go out with a smaller ethnic party to join for, let's say, if there's a need for this kind of coalition, then they may have a higher percentage. Okay, I'm going to join you for this coalition, but give me two portfolios in the cabinet. That could happen. So we may see more, maybe at least a few, cabinet ministers, because of this kind of need for a coalition.
Looks like both sides will try to include the ethnic representation in the formation of the government or cabinet, just for the sake of the numbers, because they need the numbers to get the majority in the parliament. I think.
I think just this election, whichever way it goes, as you were saying, taking the numbers from the ethnic parties to make up numbers to be able to hold representations, that's a way of seeing more ethnic politicians taking portfolios. It's also a good way to see, it's almost at the end of a generation. I think this general election it's definitely a change in one way or another. In what way it goes between the USDP and the NLD, there is change coming. And it's what will happen is, through voting in or incorporating ethnic portfolios, it'll start to dilute the original intentions of the party. So the NLD will always be a historical democratic party because of its roots from the 1990 election and Aung Suu Kyi's image. But now that it has its voice and it has its grounding, it has everything that it needs, it'll slowly become the left-wing party of many other countries. The USDP party was built on the military, it was built on the back of the military. The old generals took off their suits and put on civilian clothing. And now, if they lose a lot of their seats to the NLD, many of these men may just be like, okay, well, I've done my fair share, I've served my country, I've been a politician, and now it's time to kind of let go. And it'll incorporate younger generations, like a lot of people who wouldn't have ever dreamed or thought of being able to get involved in politics now have that choice.
Through the USDP.
Through the USDP, and it will bleed out. And there will be a lot of things happening. The NLD is always going to be an outlet and a voice for change. So people go towards that, and we could see the USDP turning into somewhat of a conservative party because of its historical roots, having more wealthier people incorporated into it. So, I mean, the evolution of the political system is it's going to change from today and over the next couple of weeks.
I think this is the opening of a new door towards a new landscape where political landscape itself may change, like the role the NLD has been playing up to this point and the role that the USDP is playing up to this point, that may totally change. Not just the changes that will go towards the amending the constitution or about the ethnic people or about the economic policy, but the political landscape and the role of the two big parties may change dramatically after these elections.
I must say generation change as well. I think this could be the beginning of the generation change with this election, because I think looks like more and more young MPs will be in the parliament, more women MPs will be sitting in the parliament, and of course the ethnic representatives more in the parliament and in the government. So this could be the change, beginning of the generational change that will take place in next 5 years or 10 years.
Well, it's not only, I think, yes, I agree with you that there will be this kind of generational change in both political parties, but not just because they're taking in new faces and younger people into the fold, but also the leadership in both parties are aging. They're in the 60s and 70s and 80s, so they may be retiring and they may have to nurture the younger generation to take their place. I think that could happen in the next 4 or 5 years. And by 2020, we may see the faces that we have never seen up until this point, or maybe we're going to see the low-profile younger people in both parties coming towards the high positions. That could happen. Not just about these kind of generational change in the sense of political vision, etc., but also by age. We may see more younger people in parliament by the next election, but that would be the starting point from today onwards.
While we are talking this, I mean, I got the photos here. It is not celebration yet, but already there is a huge jam. If you look at the photos, huge jam in front of the NLD office. And I'm sure the people are coming for watching the results, and maybe a kind of a celebration mood already started in front of the NLD office.
I think I do notice something, because I've got to come to this office by 10 this morning and then went back to my place for the voting in the middle of the day and then come back. So I do see a real bizarre thing. There were very few cars on the street. Normally traffic wasn't there the whole day. And then now the traffic after the voting ends and these kind of vote counting, people comes out. And maybe many of them will be heading towards the NLD headquarters. But then I do see two things behind this less traffic issue. One is that, okay, people are voting, they're busy, whatever. But then there's a fear factor behind this traffic issue. No, very few cars from this point. I'm living in Labrador and this is in Mizzima now. I could reach my home in 10 minutes. Normally it may take half an hour, maybe an hour.
45 minutes.
Even in the middle of the day. That shows that people are staying behind doors, or saying to try to get away from all this traffic in the streets, because they must have been some sort of fear factor. They are really concerned about, hey, something violent may happen, etc. I mean, by the end of the day, with vote counting starts and nothing happening the whole day, people feel much comfortable, much better. Okay, let's go out, celebrate for this party, that party, whatever. Then I think the fear factor is almost gone by the end of the day.
What about in 1990 when the NLD got the landslide victory? You had witnessed
I was there,
that.
but then you remember in those days there were no traffic at all. Traffic starts with 2012, 13, this kind of relaxing the rules about importing the cars. But even in those days there was this kind of high prices for car and there were few cars, so traffic is not an issue at all in those days.
But the people must be celebrating.
People, you know what, in those days there were no computers, no social media, no internet, etc. But then people are physically there, and the announcement was not on the LED boat as now we're seeing, but it was on just a little black boat. Hey, we went in this township. I think the first two news, very good news, come towards the NLE in the same evening. One is from we call them Sekan Township, which is like the Port Authority areas. It's normally government employees and all the stuff. My sister won.
Oh.
She's the first lady who won the NLE seat, the first ever seat from that area. That's quite encouraging news, and then her name and also was there on the blackboard. And then the other guy is a young guy who was simply asked to go to the Coco Island.
Oh,
It's a military base.
The military base.
And then he went there. He had to sleep on the beach with a little tent. He wasn't able to campaign much because it's a military base and maybe a few small villages. But he won. So though that was came in by phone call or whatever, and there was an announcement on the blackboard, but people were really joyous and there's a jubilation. So, but then it was slow in terms of communicating without the internet and the social media. But then even then, there was a huge crowd.
Yeah.
Right there.
Now we have
in the very same place.
Yeah, now we have LED screens and already
all
the
these,
traffic huge in front of the NLD office. Yeah.
Okay, I think the other way around, I'm thinking about the USD from the USD perspective. Let's say the other loser. Imagine, okay? What? Okay, they will still be there in the parliament working together with, or maybe against the rule. And at that point, maybe the next other ruling party, maybe the NLD, they got to work with them. They may be voting together or voting against, etc., etc. And will they be getting closer to the military, or will they be trying to get closer to the USD? What's your take? In that scenario, let's say the USD won at least 100 seats. That's quite sizable in a parliament where we have only 600 or so seats. What would be their position in that case?
I am still sticking with what I have sort of predicted or thought of. NLD this time in 2015 will not have what NLD got in 1990, landslide victory. No. Yes, NLD will win, maybe more than a simple majority, or a little bit more than simple majority. That's it. Then there is USDP combined with 25% of military, and they have some possible alliance with ethnic parties. So with these two, one NLD with simple majority or a little bit more than simple majority, but on the other hand, USDP quite still a strong political bloc with seats available for them. So
and
that's
then
where
joining with the military.
Yeah, military because
MPs,
it's already because USDP
so
and
in that
military
case,
is together.
the likely scenario is that okay, there will be more NLE members of parliament in the upcoming session, but less members of the USDP, but they may form a government with less number of seats for the civilians, because they only got these 25% from the military,
Yeah.
their support for informing a cabinet or choosing a president. But think about it, that maybe, let's say they only want something like 250 seats, and then USDP got something like 150, but the 150 group wins in choosing a president. So will that make them a little bit more humble, unlike now?
No, there is also a possibility that NLD forming the government together with alliance with the ethnic parties. There is still
that's a different scenario, but then that's still a possibility. Yeah.
So that we will again, it's all depend on the numbers.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, quite a lot of political discussions, quite a lot of even horse trading can take place in the next few days.
Or in the next few weeks.
Coming few days and coming weeks, depending on who. But there is a possibility that NLD forming the government together with some ethnic alliance, and USDP forming the government together, of course, together with the military seats and some ethnic alliance party. So that is a possibility, and of course. I still stick that the NLD will not have landslide sort of victory where it can form
government without
government
seeking any
itself. No.
assistance from anybody.
No.
That's well, no. but there still is, because the vote counting is not
Yeah,
ended.
yeah.
Then all these different scenarios could happen. And
Yeah,
then
yeah. No,
the results
if we look at
by the end
yeah.
of tomorrow or the day
Yeah.
after tomorrow may be quite different. We
Yeah,
don't know.
if we look at this results coming, results of this vice president, which is quite surprising, and he's still trailing behind the NLD candidate, and the vice president is quite prominent in his
popular in
constituency.
his own
Yes.
ethnic areas.
So,
but
I
then
mean,
doesn't it something that we have to take a look back again at the UEC and the process itself? It looks like there may be some attempt to manipulate the voting process, the voting, etc. But then finally, that's quite free and fair,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
That sounds.
Well, it's one of those situations where we just have to wait and see over the next few days as they announce the official results. But I mean, if the votes are coming from like in constituency where they're taking the ballots out of the box and counting them one by one, that's a clear indication of the wants and desires of people. So it's only just a matter of time, or afterwards it'll be very easy to...
So far, the results, whatever the results are coming in from the counting, NLD candidates are leading.
Yeah,
I think
that's
we'll
definitely
stop.
sure.
We'll have a break here, and then let's see after this break.
Yeah. Okay. Looks like more news stories are coming through the television channel and through the social media. So it looks like in every single vote, the result is not final in any constituency. Let's say even in Kambu, where Asanti is definitely leading, but even from other towns like in Shan State, in other maybe in the middle of the country, or down in the Delta, it looks like the NLEs seem to be leading everywhere.
Yeah.
Not definitely become the winner yet, but even in these kind of small voting stations, where I think I got just got one interesting story from Taungu. It says that there's a military base, there's a voting station, very few voters, maybe somewhere around 200, and in that particular voting station inside the military base, the NLE won. So I think this shows something quite different from what we have been expecting. Okay, within the military, there may be some sort of influencing pressure for the soldiers in the voting process, etc. It looks like it's a bit free and fair, even in those military-based voting stations. I think this is a very encouraging news. Again, not just for the NLE itself, but also for the whole process.
Yeah.
It looks more fair than we thought it would be.
Here one vote counting result that is from Tenganjon, one of the townships in Yangon. In Malika, the housing polling booth, NLD candidate Ushui Lawen has got 573 votes, and USDP candidate Udan Singh got so far 68. So quite it is the trend that NLD is leading. And also in some other areas elsewhere, I think NLD candidates are leading. Of course, again, these are at individual polling booths, not as at constituency. And there is here one report coming in Sagaindai, that is Sagain region in Palais Township. Again, NLD candidate is leading at one polling booth with 402 votes against USDP 30 votes for the lower house seat.
That's interesting, because Palais Township in the Sagain division, which is north of Mandalay, and that particular constituency, Palais, it is the place where the former Minister of Information is contesting.
And current Minister for Cooperatives.
He is contesting there. He is losing. Looks like anyway,
he's trailing behind.
Trailing behind in that particular voting station, but that may represent the whole township. That may not, but interesting. There's somebody relatively not well-known people from the NLE, that maybe a young man or maybe a woman or whoever it is, against prominent figures from the USDP, and they are trailing behind.
Like even for the upper house seat and the regional parliament, like the figures are like this: 412 against 27 of USDP,
and NLD in the
414 against 29 votes of USDP. So it is really
showing
a big, huge gap between NLD and USDP.
USDP.
Again, This is at individual polling booth, but
But-
the results are coming. That NLD is
More-
leading in many
more-
places, in many polling
More
booths.
places.
Yeah, it's definitely a sign. I mean, if one polling booth, if just one polling booth displays a large majority, so the one in Thinganjun, which was over 500 votes compared to was
To like 27,
27.
27, 29.
And then in the
votes.
far north, in the small towns called Palais,
Yeah.
again, pretty much the same gap.
Exactly. And so you have that divide, but even though I don't think there'll be a large variation, maybe in constituencies where there's richer neighbourhoods, the vote may vary. But I mean, in regards to the voting system, if the NLD have higher percentages in voting booths in general, that is just a definite clear
that could
signal.
mean the
that-
clear signal that
Yeah.
they may become the winner, or maybe a landslide winner.
Yes, there's the possibility. I mean, a lot of people did rule that out, and it still should be ruled out that the NLD could win a landslide. But I mean, if they're taking these large amounts of votes, and especially in Taungoo, that's just an indicator that something is going to definitely change. Maybe it might blow all our expectations out of the water.
Yeah.
And I believe that a lot of current sitting USDP members could not believe the results, or would believe the results as they came in, simply because a lot of people would have been doubting this large change in one sitting.
Of course, in the day, we have heard the statements from the president and the commander-in-chief that they will accept the results if NLD wins. So I think still we will.
And
have to
I would
wait
like
and
to come
see.
with
Yeah.
again, the real winner is again the public.
Yes.
And then they come with a very decisive decision to vote and vote towards a party that they really prefer. And then again, up to this one, it's kind of, we are still witnessing some pictures from the last show against the vice president and
Yeah.
this relatively unknown guy that shows that the process, this 2015 November election process is relatively freer and fairer than we thought it might be.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people weren't expecting it to be unfair or unfree. They were thinking it to be slightly fair or slightly free. But yeah, I suppose it has been a free and fair election, despite the hiccups with voter lists, or bizarre choices of using a stamp over a pen from the UACs, and it still is saying that regardless of what has happened in the past in the military or ex-military's role in the past, what is happening now is definitely a change, and it's for the future of the country rather than trying to manipulate it. I mean, like the military, it's 25% block, and that is, as Dorsu has said, it's just like I don't see it as a block because they're just humans. You can overcome them. Nothing can stop them from leaving, and they will still have their place for the next 5 years, I imagine. So, but I mean, in the next 5 years, I guess it just has to. The change is down to the people. The winners of this election, as you said, is the public, and the public need to realise this and use it to the best of their ability, and to scrutinise the winner. If it be the NLD, they need to treat them like any other government and not rely on them to bring forward change. They have to make sure that they bring the change that they want.
Now look at time is like 6:30, so we are like a little bit over 2 hours after the vote counting started. So I think we will be getting the results coming in
More comprehensive
in
results
the next like 1 hour,
next
2 hours,
couple of hours.
and it is really interesting. I don't know. I have not seen except the place in front of the NLD office where there's a huge traffic jam, and people were in the sort of a celebration mood. I don't know what would be the reactions, or maybe people are eager to know what is going on, who is winning. Yeah,
But
like my
again,
mother.
I think because, again, I think there's another positive aspect to this. Like, okay, now we've seen the result from the individual polling station in each different constituency, but we don't have any news about any negative response. Let's say
No,
this small
no, there
polling
is no-
station, the NLD won, okay, but what about the losing team? We don't see any violence at all up to this one. So which again is like a salute to all these people,
Yeah, yeah.
like keeping calm from both parties. Yeah.
So far, I think that is also very interesting. It is the competition race between USDP and NLD. Other smaller parties, yes, they get some seats, some votes, but still they are
well
quite
behind.
well behind and far behind the both parties in, I mean, whatever the results are coming in. I think yes, these are the two parties. There were a lot of complaints during the campaign period from the smaller parties that the media, private media, especially the print, that didn't give enough coverage on the campaigns of smaller
Small
parties.
parties, yeah.
So they were complaining, oh, you are giving the coverage only for or the NLD, the opposition party, main opposition party. And the result is also sort of, is showing that they are, it's really quite far behind, these two main parties. So what is the role of these, what do you think, what is the role of these smaller parties? I'm not talking of ethnic parties, I'm talking of smaller, like mainland parties. What is the role of these parties in government formation?
Well, actually, there is, I don't think they will take a significant role in playing the games in the parliament, like in local parliament or even in the central government. I don't think this time they may have a space for themselves. But the ethnic party may have more space, even in the regional and local government and the central government. I think because, again, I think I do see two kinds of small parties. We have maybe like 80, 85 small parties. Okay, forget about the ethnic party. They are there in their own, strong in their own ethnic areas. But then the other party, there are only two kinds. Some have this kind of like strong ideology by themselves. Okay, we really want to do something for the farmers or for my beliefs in this particular ideology, but the rest are sort of like some proxy party created by the USDP itself. In case somebody went somewhere else, they may need that single seat, would be very helpful for the ruling party. So I think that's a reason behind their obscure image. Because none are really, of course there are some prominent figure. Let's say one guy, he is a presidential advisor. He came with a new political party with a very similar logo with the peacock and stars, etc., but then he didn't make a dent at all. Maybe spending tons of money in creating a party, or maybe being supported by somebody else or some group of people, but then they didn't make a difference. Up to this point, we do see very little coverage on about those parties. But then I think some major media houses like the Mizzima, the Myanmar Times, the 7 Day, etc., they try to balance. So they did come with some sort of like at least some information about those parties, or maybe a face from the party, maybe some quotation from somebody who spoke for that party. But apart from that, because they didn't make news, they were not in the newspapers. It's as simple as that. And then there seemed to be this bias in the private sector, and the accusation that the private sector newspaper are really biased towards the opposition party. But then I think it's quite balanced, because the state-owned paper are biased towards the ruling party. The private sector, although they are comparing to the state-owned media, they have far less reach. The two, at least there are three newspapers belong to the government. One is an English paper, quite small, but the two Burmese language, Myanmar language daily papers are quite strong in terms of the business size, the income, and the reach. They have much higher circulation than all the rest of the private teams. The leading paper in the private team may be somewhere around 100,000, but the one with the government may have at least double that circulation, or maybe triple the circulation. So I think the state-owned people were biasing towards the government, and the private sector writing more in favor of the NLD. But again, both the state-owned media and the private sector tried to provide at least some space for the smaller parties, but they were not able to come up with any newsworthy activities.
Well,
what do you take?
With this election, it was for the mainland smaller parties. It wasn't about them. It had this key election was about change. It was to bring in the NLD, what the people wanted, right from the beginning, right from 2012. That was a clear indication of what potentially could happen in 2015 if everything played out the way it did. But now, I mean, now that the NLD has, if it wins, which we still don't know, if it is given 5 years in government, that in those 5 years, candidates or smaller parties will begin to grow a bigger name, especially if they just stick it out. I mean, in 2012, when the change of the media laws, there were many private-owned companies that just disappeared quite quickly. But it was just like the idea of this freedom. Everybody wanted to get involved. Everybody wants to start a party. Everybody wants to bring about their idea of change.
And sustainability is another question, another big question. Yeah.
So now that they've been given, now that the public have been given the NLD, which they want this free and fair vote, and they've been able to do that, whoever the winner is, in the meantime, will give room for the major of the minor parties to be able to grow and develop and to stretch out more into different areas and give themselves more of a name. I don't think the last 5 years could have given them as much as they'd hoped for, simply because of what happened in the 2012 by-elections. So
There were also quite strong criticism against NLD when it refused to accept some leaders from the 88 generation group, and also when it didn't work out a sort of a strategy with the ethnic parties in contesting in the elections. There was quite strong criticism. And the question is, what is the role of these, like for example, 88 generation group, the smaller parties? I think that is still a sort of lingering question of what is their role
in the future,
post-election. And I don't know, I'm quite interested. It looks like USDP, ruling party, is losing and is doing quite badly so far. I mean, we cannot say exactly now, but whatever the results are coming in, USDP is doing quite badly in the elections. What could be the reasons why USDP people are not? What do you think?
I mean, their performance or their achievement so far?
Why the people are not voting for them?
I don't want to go back to the 1990 or the big election way back in like 25 years ago, but then I hate to say this, but then this is again the hate vote.
But they did. The current government did quite a lot of things in the last 4 5 years.
The current government is quite popular with lots of, not some people, but lots of people. For example, U Thein Sein was very popular when he came up with that very picture with the lady in the presidential house, when he said announcement that comes, okay, I'm going to suspend that big dam in the north, like Mizzima Dam, etc. He was quite popular. But then in the last couple of years, there seemed to be kind of like popularity going down the drain with some real negative impact from, let's say, what happened to the students, the beating up of the students and rounding them up, etc., or this kind of like continuous complaint from the farmers that lands have been taken away again and again and again. So I think probably went down a little bit in the last couple of years, especially for somebody who, I think U Thein Sein, we have to give some credit to U Thein Sein himself. He did bring some change right after his election to the presidency, with some brilliant move like this Mizzima Dam decision, start talking with the Aung San Suu Kyi, even before she got elected to the parliament. So he did have some credits, but then I think the last couple of years, especially now and the second part of 2014, there seemed to be, I don't know why, this kind of like negative results coming out from maybe his decision or a decision of somebody from his cabinet, etc. And then again, that little thing, that is not a little thing for us, but a big thing for the US to be the split up. Through Rashtriman being ousted just a few weeks ahead of the election, etc. That may have this kind of like negative impact upon themselves.
And also the current government or USDP ruling party did try to play around the issue of national ceasefire accord, and that was that was one of the sort of their achievements, supposed to be their achievements, that there is now a nationwide ceasefire agreement. And I don't think many voters
Pay attention to
paid
that.
attention or did take that
I think in that sense,
argument.
okay, the current government came up with this kind of like sort of achievement, like they signed a nationwide ceasefire agreement with only 8 parties, 8 groups, not all the groups.
Yeah, it's a ceasefire
so
agreement.
the ceasefire
Yeah.
agreement. So it's like just 1/3 of those ethnic groups are willing to join the government and sign this kind of NCA, but the rest said, okay, we're going to wait and see. So that may again have this kind of like negative impact. They can claim, okay, and then some are making a joke of it. I call it the national ceasefire agreement. It's not national. It's partial ceasefire agreement. So again, that he did try. I mean, I think U Thein Sein and his team did try to achieve something, but then they didn't achieve enough.
Well, I mean, there could be a series of small things. The ceasefire agreement, and well, with the recent flooding around the country, a lot of people believe that it would actually boost the USDP standing amongst a lot of the population because of the way of relief. But a lot of people speculated that. But what I thought was interesting about that is like it could also bring about like a negative turn, because what happened during the flooding, the biggest response and relief came from the people.
From the civil society.
Civil society, the general public collecting
small
donations.
groups of people just simply trying to lend a hand.
And private companies as well. Everybody wanted to get involved. So I think when people look towards a party, it is the NLD, and that's the People's Party, so that's why they go there. So the ceasefire agreement, the flooding, and also the splitting of the USDP, I mean, I think that was what happened in Naypyidaw would have, scared some people, or reading the headlines that, police or military being involved in the political situation would, and then the one person being ousted and the president, being involved in that situation, and other allegations and rumours about Tan Shui being involved. I mean, that would, unsettle everybody in this country. Like, that would, you'd just lose all confidence in a party that had been doing good for so long, and then in the lead up to one of the biggest events, there was just these small things that, well, not small things, these
Small
instances.
things, one leads to another.
Yeah, it just
all these
piled on
unfortunate
everything.
events and all these negative events piling up.
Yeah.
On the other hand, NLD, the entire party, and despite there were some incidents that some of the members of the NLD left the party over the question of selecting the candidates. I think if you remember some time ago. But despite that, I think the entire party and the people, even the 88 generation, they supported the leadership of Aung San Suu Kyi, and the Aung San Suu Kyi really also won ahead. I mean, she won she traveled more than 20 places in a short
She
period.
went to 50 townships in 30 days.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yes, amazing.
But it might be too exhausting for her, like at this age, somebody traveling 50 townships in 30 days. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're wondering, what kind of energy does she have? Or is maybe this kind of her beliefs in the change, and then her belief that, okay, I must lead right away. This may be the last chance. We must put all our energy together and do something. Let's move ahead. That may be the reason. We don't know, but then it's amazing. But then again, taking a look back at these other group of people like Nyo Thin, that popular candidate from Bahan Township, and then the 88 generation people, there was some sort of like complaints coming from all directions. Why didn't you choose this very popular figure like Kokoji, Nyo Thin, etc., etc.? And then there was a very firm negative answer from the analyst. Okay, we have made up our mind, that's it, but there will be more cooperation, but not with the lady, the individual candidate, but with the 88 generation. They're helping a lot towards the NLD and towards the whole process of election by helping, lending hands in voters' education, reaching out and helping the poor people in the flash flood, and then right after that, they're trying to help this poor community in voters' education, trying to talk to the people on behalf of sometimes with the NLD people, sometimes on behalf of the NLD people. I think the role of the 88 generation people are quite different from other groups. They may definitely have a role in the next 4 or 5 years, or maybe well after, up to the next election, they definitely will have a bigger role inside the NLD and in politics in general.
Again, it's like the beginning of, in my opinion, is the beginning of the generation change now, starting from these elections. Yeah. So I think the results so far are showing that NLD candidates are leading in many polling booths, counting, and even though we have not got a specific result from any of the constituencies, and surprisingly, the big names, at least one, from the USDP is trailing behind the NLD candidate. So I think, and then the gap between NLD's votes and USDP vote is quite significant. It is like 5 times or 4 times gap. I think looks like it's very
These are the
interesting.
indicators that the NLD may be the landslide winner, but we don't know yet. But all these indicators from different directions, from small towns, from big towns, in the rural areas, way up in the Shan State, down in the south like Komu, or maybe a small town in Magui State, Sagaing Division, etc. So all the indicators are saying that, hey, this is the winning party, or maybe a landslide winner. But we still have to wait and see. We still have, tomorrow there will be more programs, and after this program there will be more follow-up programs. So let's call it a day.
Yeah.
And thank you guys, and thank
you.
you all the crew members.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.